Tonight, CNN projects that Spencer Pratt, the Trump-backed candidate running for mayor of Los Angeles, will lose out on a chance to face the incumbent, Pratt Bass. Over the weekend, the former reality TV star lost ground to progressive city council member Nithya Raman as more votes were counted over the weekend. Across all votes reported since election night, Raman has outperformed both Bass and Pratt, erasing a 40,000 vote deficit to Pratt and emerging more than 20,000 ahead. Now, before CNN's projection that Raman would advance, and with zero evidence to support this claim, today Trump said the election was rigged. On Fox Tonight, JD Vance also offered his skepticism.
Somehow we find ourselves in a situation where, number one, they're still receiving ballots, not just counting ballots, Jesse, they're still receiving ballots. And number two, the way that they're coming in just so happens to work out such that the Republican is getting kicked out of the final two. So it's a Democrat versus Democrat runoff. That seems pretty shady to me.
Welcome back, everyone. I will show you 3 pieces of evidence as to why this California election is highly questionable.
Everything is about vibes. You know, no proof, no substantiation, just vibes. And you know, we just came off a pretty heated conversation in the last segment. This time, I want to start with some basic facts about where this race stood when voters went to the ballot. So before these the votes really were starting to be counted, Pratt and Bass was in the lead. Nithya Raman was within the margin of error, but right behind her. And Spencer Pratt was in third, but he was actually outside of the margin of error. He was losing, okay? So you take that, then let's look at this. Pratt and Bass in head-to-heads against Spencer Pratt would have beat him by 18 points. Pratt and Bass in a head-to-head against Nithya Raman would beat her by just 4 points. So that's a competitive race. So when you have people like Trump and Vance and others saying, oh, there's a conspiracy here, there's no conspiracy. It's just math. It's just counting ballots. Why can't they just lose gracefully?
Well, if the Knicks win tonight and they say, oh, we're not going to know the score for 3 more weeks, I mean, people would riot in this city. And perception is reality. So
no, it's not.
If the Knicks
reality
win tonight and we
reality.
say, we don't know, that creates the
perception is not reality
and
in
we
this
don't want
situation.
that. Why
reality
would we ever want to create a perception?
Reality is reality, okay? A Knicks game and voting are not the same thing. We know that. So...
Okay, the first evidence is that since Friday, every single ballot drop has gone Raman's way. I mean, every single one. June 3rd, June 6th, June 7th, she wins the drop every single time. I mean, what are the odds? She gained nearly double what Pratt gets. The betting markets flipped to her by Thursday afternoon, days before any network called it, and even CNN admits that across all the votes counted since election night, Raman outperformed both Pratt and Bass, erasing a 40,000 vote lead. Spencer Pratt put it best, a net swing of more than 43,000 votes since Tuesday. And he pointed out where you might have seen that number before. LA's official homeless count, 43,699. What are the odds?
Voting, people get to cast their ballots and those ballots get to count. So, do you want to count the ballots or you don't want to count the ballots?
Well, we want to count them on election day.
You want to count them, if you're a Democrat, you want to count them until you pull ahead and then you stop. But I just want to say this. You have a system in California where you don't need a voter ID. You don't even need a voter ID you don't need an ID to register either. You count ballots long after the election's over. You don't have election results the evening of, like you do all over the country and in other countries with many more population sizes. You can harvest ballots. So you set up a system where you can create doubt with the voters because
doubt just gets created.
Well, and then all of a sudden, the candidate that conceded election night all of a sudden gets double the outperformance after the election.
What about Steve
and
Hilton?
Pulls ahead.
He's receiving votes in California. He's a Republican. Let's play what he said tonight. He agrees with you on the problems with the system, but he's probably going to be in the runoff. So let's hear what he says.
There's so many things wrong with the system. I've been saying all along that we take it very seriously because we don't want to let people down, and we've been very vigilant on it. We're keeping an eye on it. We've got teams standing by, lawyers standing by, and actually it's the same answer that actually I've been giving for a few days now. We've seen nothing that would give us cause to intervene in that way. But more importantly than that, Bill Essayli, the U.S. attorney, who's actually got the full weight, we're just a campaign, he's got the full weight of the Justice Department, and he's there and he's taking a look at it. And I trust that if there is anything that needs to be investigated, that he will make sure it happens. But I think the real point is that this whole system needs to be improved.
No question, California should count votes faster. But Steve Hilton is getting votes just in the same system, the very same system that Karen Bass and Nithya Raman and Spencer Pratt are getting votes in. And he's doing fine. And he's not crying foul because he's winning. Spencer Pratt just happens to be losing. And actually, if you look at the numbers, there's a lot of reason that it would make sense for him to be losing.
Well, okay, let's understand a few things that happened in California. And let's remember that in the United States, each state has their own set of election laws. That's just how our system works. In California...
So Abby keeps saying it's all vibes and conspiracy theory. I disagree. I checked out California's own rulebook, and it does say you don't need an ID, and if you have to present it, a health club identification card will do. So any non-citizen, regardless of their migration status, can get this. So there is no respect for democracy. What is going on here? And also, there is unlimited harvesting of ballots, which is practically guaranteeing the Democratic win there. And final tally will be on July 2nd, which is like 3 weeks away. So we don't need to allege fraud. The system creates doubt itself.
Every voter, every eligible voter, every active eligible voter in California receives an absentee ballot. There are some people that do early voting. There are some people that vote in person. Most of the people that do those are Republicans. And most of the Democrats vote by mail-in ballot. Now, what happens in California? If your ballot is postmarked on election day, they count it. And they allow for 7 days for that ballot that could have been mailed in on election day to get there. That's why they are still receiving ballots, and they will be receiving ballots until tomorrow. There is a phenomenon in California known as the red mirage. Because Republicans vote early voting and vote day of the election, those votes are counted first. And so there's a disproportionate representation of Republican votes. I think Steve Hilton is receiving, if you look at California, California is what, 25, 26% Republican? And I think Donald Trump's endorsement of Steve Hilton helped him consolidate that Republican vote. And he is number 2 in a roster of 61 candidates running for California governor. So there is nothing in that race that's indicating any fraud. You can take an issue with how they do it. You can take an issue with the fact that they allow 7 days. You can take an issue with all of that. But it is a giant state with over 20 million voters where everybody is allowed to vote by mail. In Florida, most of us vote early voting or vote day of. So that's why we in Florida can count quickly. So it's not about counting quickly. It's if they're still waiting for election ballots to come in because the law allows them to come in until a week after the election.
Anna Navarro is correct. The red mirage is a thing. So my question is, when are we going to fix it? And what are we going to do about this particular election? Because they're going to say, oh, we can't really do anything about the outcome because the system. So when are we actually going to work on the system?
Florida is also a good example of...
Well, we've had our issues.
Yeah, I mean, Florida has had their issues. But I would also say, like, prior to the whole Trump kind of, quote-unquote, sowing doubt, okay, in all of this, in Florida, Republicans used to rely on older voters voting by mail.
Yes.
Republicans relied on those votes.
It was Jeb Bush and my husband, Al Cardenas, who was the chair of the Republican Party of Florida, that invested tremendously in building a vote-by-mail operation amongst Republicans in Florida. And it used to be that the absentee ballots used to benefit Republicans. It was the inverse of what's happening in California.
President Trump mails in his ballot. This isn't about the election result as much as it is about having confusion and chaos. So when it's election time, you get to have an opportunity to better shape the narrative in your favor. This is about November. This is not about now. This is about continuing to plant seeds of doubt. So if there is a blue wave, which, you know, that's debatable, he'll be able to say it was rigged, we need to investigate, these results shouldn't count, etc. So this is just planting more seeds of doubt.
It's also about depressing and suppressing the vote, casting doubt in the integrity of the election system and making people doubt, why do I even vote at all? Does it even matter?
Yes, and technically, all the candidates are nonpartisan. They're not
in California.
In California.
Yeah.
I think perception is reality, and I think it's exactly the inverse. Mail-in voting, fine, but why can't it all be counted on election day? You have this, it's creating
Because that's
this
the law.
perception among people. Mail in your ballot, but get it in on election day, because it's creating this perception among people, correctly so, like, why don't we know the result on election day?
President
That just
Trump
is completely wrong.
inserting
And by the
doubt
way,
is creating
I live
perception.
outside of Los Angeles County, but I knew people who voted in Los Angeles who did not have to show an ID to vote. So the combination of not having to show an ID and the fact that we don't know the winner on election day creates a lot of doubt. Any common sense person
one of the
feels
first
that
things,
way.
I'll ask, do you remember one of the first things that Vice President Pence was tasked with when they first got into the White House?
About Vice President
But I
Pence.
would tell you, it was actually to investigate voter fraud. It was one of the first things that President Trump in his first term set out to do, was to investigate voter fraud. And you know what they found? Nothing. They found nothing.
I just believe that this is a news show and a news channel. I have an ethical responsibility to say,
Here is the third piece of evidence for you. The U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles, Bill Essayli, says California is blocking a federal audit of its photo rolls. He's not an influencer. He's the federal prosecutor. A DOJ sued for the voter data. A court threw the case out, and the ACLU celebrated. So if you read this, the feds asked to check the rolls for non-citizens. California said no. California fought it, and California won. And now the same people tell you there is no evidence. And the reason that there is no evidence is because the people looking for it aren't allowed in the building. It's nuts.
that you are lying.
No, I'm
You
not.
are lying.
I have ethical responsibility.
I didn't interrupt you.
Hold on a
And you
second.
will
I
not
didn't
attack me.
You don't call me a liar on national TV, sir. Do not call me a liar on national TV, sir.
I'm going to let
You're a liar.
you.
You
I'm gonna
are a
let you
liar.
respond in just a minute.
And that I say that to
Charles, finish
spell
your-
it,
finish
I
your
can
point.
spell it too. And I have an ethical responsibility if people are going to come over here and poison voters' views of an election system that has no proof that it is rigged in any way, spouting the same lie that the president is spouting. We have an ethical responsibility at this table in a news show and a news channel to call that out. And I'm going to do that.
Caroline,
you can huff and puff.
done it.
You can huff
Go
and puff
ahead.
and be mad all you
All
want,
right.
and I don't care.
Hal, you can respond to
You
that.
keep ignoring what I've said.
I think Charles is being a bit childish here. What do you guys think?
You're saying
I'm going to keep ignoring it because you're
won't
lying.
Let me let him finish. Let me let him respond.
we didn't know there was mass Medicare fraud until the federal government investigated Minnesota, investigated these other states.
That's
California.
not true.
It's time out.
That is not
They
true.
won't let
That
me
is not.
finish.
She was in
hold on.
jail
Hold on a
already.
second. Hold on. Well,
I'm talking
hold on,
about
Hal.
mass
Let me just ask you to
amounts of
do. Let me
fraud.
ask you to do two things. First of all, let us try to be tethered in facts.
Okay.
Second of all, let's respond to what he said about your claims on the election.
Proof.
I don't want to hear about Medicare fraud. I don't want to hear about any kind of other fraud other than your claims of voter fraud and what proof you have of
Because
that.
California will not allow the federal government to review their voter rolls.
A majority of other states in this country, including many Republican-led states, also will not allow the federal government to inspect their voter rolls. Why? Because it is not legal for them to do that. And
that's not
all the cases in which they have been challenged, Hal, all of them so
What are
pretty
they hiding?
all of them so far have been thrown out by judges because there is no legal basis for the federal government
What's being reasonable? How is reasonable, don't you think?
to inspect the state voter rolls. So what else do you have?
My point is that he's saying there's no evidence. They won't allow evidence to be gathered.
The
is the point.
absurdity of your
They won't allow
point is that
evidence to
you
be
don't
gathered.
have proof, and then
Once
I gotta
again,
say this. He don't have proof, and then he
yelling at
says,
me. Once
I don't
again.
have proof, and I can
Well,
prove that I don't have proof because they won't let us investigate.
let me just-
So you don't have proof, and you just proved that you don't have it.
Let me just give you some.
Oh my God.
Hal, let me just give you some more information on this. The federal government has received, I think it's millions of voter registrations from some Republican-led states that have given them access to it. Do you know what percentage of those votes or those registrations where they found actual, fraud of any kind?
Do you?
Yeah.
What is it?
It is a fraction of a percentage.
Fraction.
And in some cases, when they double checked, the flags that they thought were fraud were actually not fraud.
So what you're
And
saying is
so my
there's,
point
there's
is,
all
here's
kinds
what-
of fraud all
here's
over
what-
the place, but not in
here's-
voting.
Well, here's what my point is.
Not in voting.
You're claiming that it's never been looked at. That's false. You're claiming that this administration hasn't been able to look at it. That's also false.
Not in California. We're
You
talking
are,
about California.
you are claiming that just the fact that the federal government hasn't looked at all the state voter rolls is proof that there is fraud is not true.
but there's data,
again,
too.
I'll ask you again, what else do you have?
Okay, I just said earlier, when you have a candidate who's in third place, this is a Democrat and Democrat, Bass and Nanya. And you have she's in third place. She was getting 20% of the vote on pre-election day, on voter mail-in, on election day, and then all the after election day, she doubles her
Did
count.
you listen to anything that Anna said when she laid it out?
She doubled her
The
count.
listening
Do you
comprehension abilities
Do you
are
She only won
understand?
2 districts.
Do you understand
She didn't even win
that,
her own
that the
district.
votes that come in by mail, that they're coming from mostly Democratic voters
What, then
because
why
they
wouldn't they
tend
go
to vote by
evenly
mail?
Why
with
didn't
Karen
she
Bass?
concede?
How did she beat Karen
Because-
Bass?
Why did she concede?
How does she beat Karen Bass? Because people are voting.
No,
And because they
Why
get
did
to
she
make a
concede?
choice.
Wouldn't she
Election
know
night,
the data better than
Nithya
all
By the
of
way,
us?
she's not beating Karen Bass.
Hold on election night.
After election
not
day.
beating
election
Karen
night,
Bass.
Hold on a second.
Nithya
Hold on.
Raman conceded.
As I said earlier, more than 40,000 votes over 3 days of mailing in. They all were voting for Raman. So, what are the chances? Hal's being only reasonable. It's just that this is a very left panel, and we understand that, and we'd like this to keep going. I think it's good that CNN invites conservatives, and I'm here to actually back them up with facts.
Hold on a second.
She did concede.
So yeah, because she is not number one.
Right.
But this is an election in which it's a top 2 finisher.
Right, she didn't think she was going to
So-
get top 2.
But Hal, votes are being counted. Okay, votes are being counted.
If you watched any number of elections in your life, you know candidates concede because it makes absolute sense to do so statistically, and if you don't, it just looks ridiculous. The CNN panel will back a Democrat, no matter the logic. If you enjoyed my breakdown, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.